Yeah, good.
Okay, my name is Robert Pearl. I'm a native of Plattsburgh. I was drafted into the U.S. Army in August of 1952, and I was in for 2 years and was discharged in August of 1954.
Okay. Today is Friday, December 12th. And the interviewers are Ashley Cross and Louell Valentine. To begin, we're just going to talk about, you already mentioned where you were born and when you were born, but if you wanted to tell us a little bit about your pre-war education and where that happened.
Okay. You see, I started in, I moved to Plattsburgh. My family moved to Plattsburgh when I was about 9 months old. I was born in Carthage, so moved to Plattsburgh. I was educated at the campus school, Miss Sibley's kindergarten. They have I think the school's named after her now, and that was for kindergarten. After that, I attended St. John's Academy here in Plattsburgh for 12 years. After graduating from there in 1948, I attended Siena College in Albany for 2 years, and transferred back to Champlain College here in Plattsburgh for my last 2 years. That was over where the Air Force Base used to be, but before it was the Air Force Base, it was the home of the 26th Infantry at that time. They had a liberal arts college in Plattsburgh. Graduated from there in 1952 with a BA in Business and Economics. And at that time, there was the Universal Military Training Act in force, so all of us that graduated that hadn't been in the service were drafted that summer into the one of the branches of the service. I was into the Army and spent, I think, a month at Fort Devens in Massachusetts, and was reassigned to Fort Lee, Virginia for the quartermaster school. And after basic training there of, I think it was 16 weeks, I was sent to Fort Bragg, North Carolina for the physical training school to become a physical training instructor. And then I was sent back to Fort Lee, and that was my job, where I spent the 2 years at Fort Lee in the quartermaster school as a physical training instructor. Our duties were to test all of the trainees coming in, the basic trainees, with a physical test. I think there were about 12 or so things running, push-ups, chin-ups, all those things that were tested when they first came in, to see what kind of condition they were in, and this was all recorded. And then we gave them another test, the same type of test, same activities at the end of their 16 weeks to see how much improvement, probably kind of a test of what kind of a job we were doing as the instructors. And the other, we were recreation supervisors as well, and we set up all of the intramural sports, touch football, softball, and basketball. And we set up the schedules for each one of the companies. I think there were 12 companies in our battalion, and 200 men each in each company. So we had ball games going on quite a bit of the time in the evening, and we assigned the officials for those games and kept track of them. The officials would turn the scores back in. And it kind of kept us busy. Our office was in the gym, one of the gyms. We had many gyms around I think each company had their own gym. And we had a larger one, the headquarters company, where I was assigned. And I think there was about 10 of us instructors running the programs. So we had, when I first went in, was assigned, it was a couple of guys that had been there for a year ahead of me, so I worked with them for a year. And then when they left, I had a couple other guys come in that worked with me for a year. So we were a pretty close-knit group in the battalion. It was an enjoyable experience, really. The conditions were good. I spent weekends a lot of times at Virginia Beach. We didn't have any duty. A lot of good people at the quartermaster school that I enjoyed working with and for, and I guess that's about the size of it. I know when my kids were young, they'd say, tell me about your military experience, and I said, well, it's probably one of the most undistinguished careers you want to hear about. I never got a chance to go overseas. I spent it all stateside. So
I'm just going to ask you a couple questions about
Sure.
life when you were there. How did you keep in touch with your family and friends at home?
Mostly mail.
Yeah.
At that time, it was a 4-cent stamp.
How often would you write them and get letters?
Oh, I don't know. Probably not that often. Maybe if there was any emergency, I'd pick up the phone. But my mother was a good writer, so I used to hear from her probably once a week to keep me up to speed on what was happening at home.
How was the food when you were there?
Well, you know, in the training companies, it wasn't that great, but when I got to be an instructor in a headquarters company, it was pretty good. We had a master sergeant, a mess chief, that took a lot of pride in winning the title of best mess every month. So that made it. And very dedicated guy and kept the food, so he didn't have too many complaints at our company.
What was your most memorable experience and why?
Oh gosh, I think my first year we organized. I think it was the first time it had been done down there. We were thinking of things to make a little more competition among the battalion, the companies in the battalion. So we organized a big field day, and we called it the Olympiad, and we based it on activities in sports that were maybe at that time comparable to the Olympics. And each company had a form to fill out. They would test their own people, who was the fastest in the 100-yard dash, the hurdles, the discus, the javelin, and I forget how many sports we included, and each company had 1 or 2 entrants in that, and it was a full field day, so we had all 10 of us working at different stations. But I know the basic commander gave our unit a big commendation for running that, and it was quite successful, well attended, and probably we did more work going into that. All the other things were probably routine to us, you know, running through each company through the confidence course, giving them their PT physical training instruction 3 or 4 times a week, and we didn't get out on the marches. The companies usually took care of their bivouac and stuff like that. We didn't get involved in the 10-mile marches. Our uniform of the day was usually a T-shirt that said QMRTC for Quartermaster Replacement Training Center, and then PT instructor. So a T-shirt and a pair of khaki shorts and a pair of sneakers, and that was pretty much our uniform of the day, and which wasn't bad.
Could you say a little more about the confidence course?
Sure, the confidence course was really build up, I think, self-confidence. We had things, one of the toughest probably was climbing on a rope ladder up a tree, and then scaling down on the rope underhand, put 2 feet on the rope, and then shimmying down over a pond. So if you let go, you might get wet. is we're crawling under a rope type of thing, which would be probably just physical activity. And they were timed going through this. And all of the, some of them was climbing over a board. I don't know if you saw the movie Officer and Gentleman. Some of the things in that reminded me of climbing the board and jumping over it to get over it. And all of those type of activities were part of the confidence course that I recall at Fort Lee. It's a long time ago, it's over 50 years ago, so I might be a little hazy on a few of the things that happened. But most of the guys that I was in with graduated college and we were in just for the 2 years. We did have an opportunity to go to officer candidate school if we wanted to, but most of the attitude, the war was still going on, but it was fading out. I think it was over in 1953 in Korea, so we didn't have too many that wanted to make a career out of the military at that time. They put in our time and I think that was kind of the attitude.
Okay. Was there any one person or a few people who impacted you the most or more than anyone else?
Well, I think the guys that I worked with, we became close friends. We're still hear from some of them. Went to their weddings, they came to mine when we got out. And we kept in touch for quite a while, but then, as families grow, people move around, take different jobs, you kind of lose contact. But we had some, as I say, some good people at the quartermaster school, or not the quartermaster, the physical training school. They had top athletes down there. Two of the guys had played football at some of the great Army teams in the middle 40s at West Point. One of the instructors had been the trainer at the Naval Academy during their big years in football. And I got acquainted with these people. And was my contemporaries. The people I worked for, there was a Major Rutledge and Colonel Henson that were top notch, and it was enjoyable because they were as enthused about the program. I think with any leader or coach, the more enthusiastic they are about what's going on, it rubs off on you, and you become kind of get in step with the program. So.
All right. So what did you do when you arrived home from your time?
When I was back home?
Yeah.
After I was discharged, I went into the dairy business. It was a family business, milk processing and distribution. I started in that business, and let's see, probably my brother and I ran it for about 15 years, and then we sold it. That's where I met my wife. She was a senior at Plattsburgh, and she was from Long Island, and so we were married. Had 5 children, and they're all doing pretty well now. One is still, 2 of the girls were in the military during the Desert Storm. They were over in Iraq, Kuwait at that time. And my son is in the Navy, and he'll be discharged, I think next August after his 20 years. So. He's enjoyed the military, he's had a good job. So I guess you'd say I'm kind of pro-military guy.
So besides the dairy farming, what other occupations?
Well, it wasn't farming, it was it was a milk processing plant. We bought the milk arranged to buy the milk from dairy farmers locally, and they would haul it in to us, and we would process it and distribute it. So really a processing and sales operation.
Okay.
We went into that for 15 years, and then I got into real estate after that.
So So, do you belong to any veterans organizations?
Oh, gosh, no, I don't. I think I joined the American Legion when I got out, but after I got married, I kind of lost interest in that. And a lot of the veterans organizations sort of, over the years, kind of, there weren't as many veterans coming out, and their membership sort of, I don't want to say died off, but probably people had other interests, and they weren't as active, I guess is the best way to put it. When I joined the Legion, when I got out, there were an awful lot of veterans around, and there were a lot of activities going on, and it was the place to be. And but after a while, you kind of have other interests going on, and work and so on, so I don't belong to one now.
Okay. I know that you mentioned that you kept in touch with some of the men you worked with, and I was wondering if you had attended any reunions with them, or?
No, I haven't lately. We used to have them, you know, after we were out 5 and 10 years, we used to get together. But, you know, at the age now, I had a good friend, probably one of my closest, was in Albany, worked for General Electric in Albany, in sales. I'd see him and he and his wife probably once a year, so he passed away 3 or 4 years ago. So, and that's what happens when you get to a certain age.
Right. So overall, how did your military experience change or influence your life?
Well, I think you're a little more independent. You have to really fight for yourself, look out for yourself, make your own decisions. So I think I felt at the time it was a healthy experience, a good experience. You're coming right out of probably high school or college when you go into service in that era, and you're probably out on your own, and you don't have other people looking out after you. You're maybe more responsible, and maybe responsibility would be a thing that I think taught me that if you have a job like in the military, they're probably a little more strict about your attendance. And your upkeep, your dress, of course. Those were the things. Discipline is probably the word I'd be looking for. Military is very disciplined, and it doesn't hurt anybody to learn that, because I think in life, when you're working for somebody else or even associating with others, you're expected to pull your weight and stuff like that. So I think the military was a healthy experience for me.
Okay, wonderful. Do you have anything else you'd like to share with us today?
Not that I can think of.
Okay. Do you have any questions that I missed? Okay. Well, I think we're all set. Thank you very much.